My name is Charlie Flatten. I'm the General Manager of the Hays Trinity Groundwater Conservation District, which covers western Hays County, which is on the eastern side of the Texas Hill Country. The greatest challenge that we face in Hays County is unprecedented growth. Hays County is the fastest growing county in the United States of America. So that means that we've got to figure out how to manage a finite source of water, which puts unprecedented pressure on our water supplies and especially our groundwater. Our major goal is to protect neighbors from unreasonable pumping and waste. That way residents can rely on groundwater into the future. Jacobs Well Spring is really a window into the aquifer. It's a deep hole that goes down hundreds of feet into the Cow Creek member of the Trinity Aquifer. There are tunnels and caves underneath, and it's a very reliable source of water for the community. Jacobs Well stopped flowing for 33 days in 2009, for 18 days in 2011, and 14 days in 2013. These stoppages were the combined effects of severe drought and pumping water wells. In order to protect the groundwater resource and Jacobs Well Spring, the Groundwater District and stakeholders gathered several years ago to create a groundwater management zone. The management zone has a set of rules that restrict the amount of water pumped and from where that water can be pumped, especially during drought. In the management zone, the district has the ability to restrict pumping depending on the severity of the drought. It can be restricted by as much as 30% for commercial wells. All of that is triggered by the amount of flow coming out of the spring. Before a zone could be created and rules could be made, we had to develop science and do a lot of research and find existing research that discovered the area in which most of the water that comes out of Jacobs Well Spring was gathered. That's called a spring shed. We've all heard of a watershed. A spring shed is very similar. It's a defined area in which whatever rain hits the ground is most likely to soak in and come out of the spring. Rain falls out of the sky and hits the ground and percolates down into the earth, into the aquifer, which then comes up out of Jacobs Well Spring. The creation of groundwater management zones are an important tool in the Groundwater Conservation District toolbox in order to create protective zones for very specific uses and for very specific areas. In this area, about half of the water that gets pumped out of the aquifer comes from domestic household wells, which are not subject to regulation or management tools. So we must rely on individual homeowners to conserve. Some of the better ways to do that are through rainwater harvesting, planting appropriate landscaping, and making sure that your plumbing is not leaky. We're also usually in drought, so it's very important that we use the tools that we have. And that one of those tools is the Groundwater Conservation District to manage groundwater use in such a way that it can be a reliable resource into the future.